Hello, everybody. Welcome to Small Stages, Big Sounds, episode 4. I'm with Jason Walker, who actually lives in Holland, and we're going to have a discussion around the music scene in the Netherlands. So, Jace, just a quick question.
Mm.
How long have you been in Holland?
So it's just coming up to a year and a half now. I moved over last July in 2023. So yeah, just about a year and a half coming up.
Okay. So how are you finding the music scene out there?
It's a little bit different compared to the UK, or Manchester rather, because there's quite a number of shows that I've been able to see by virtue of living in Amsterdam that I wouldn't have been able to realistically living in Manchester because the UK date was London in the middle of the week. There's a lot more variation with stuff as well. So there's some metal, some jazz, there's some classical shows here and there as well. So it's a big spread that's easy to get to throughout a lot of the country.
That's interesting to know that there's a completely different scene over there.
Mhm.
So, what was the first gig you went to over in Holland?
I was just checking my calendar for that because I handily keep all of them referenced. But the first show I went to was Heaven Shall Burn at Melkweg in Amsterdam. The main reason why I went to that though is specifically for a support act called Shadow of Intent, to a absolutely superb technical death metal with a little bit of deathcore in there. So it was a rowdy gig for my first experience in the Netherlands.
Was it a big venue or?
By Dutch standards, sort of. The main room in Melkweg is about 1,500 capacity. The Netherlands doesn't really have quite a lot of venues that go higher that aren't arenas, for example. So it's a very, very popular venue that when I see bands go on to play like the UK or Manchester, in Manchester, for example, they'll play Victoria Warehouse, which is 3,500. It's about half the size, but still big by Dutch standards.
Okay. What about the smaller venues then? Are there any ones sort of sub 500 capacity that you've seen anybody at?
Yeah, there's a few dotted because so a lot of the different venues, mainly in the Randstad area, so like Utrecht, Amsterdam, Rotterdam, they'll often have like multiple rooms. But Melkweg, for example, it's got the 1,500 capacity room. It's got one that's about 600, and then a smaller one upstairs, and that's maybe 400. But for a dedicated venue, I went for the first time to a small independent venue called the Oki, which is on the other side of Vondelpark, and that was to see agriculture. And that was like a real proper DIY sort of venue as opposed to these really slick, clearly government-funded venues with the all singing, all dancing PA systems and the real flashy sort of look. So the Oki was like probably one of the first ones that I've gone to, other than a bar called the Cave, which is in Light Supply in Amsterdam. And they do frequently have bands on as well, but they're more of like a bar that puts bands on as opposed to like an actual proper dedicated venue.
Okay. Do you think that the vast majority of the scene in Amsterdam or in Holland tends to be those sort of larger capacity venues, of many much smaller ones, and bands find it hard to do gigs in smaller venues?
So the thing that I'm finding, especially when it comes to like a lot of these real small, proper, super grassroots venues,
Mm-hmm.
is they're dotted around in a much smaller towns and cities. There's one in Leiden called Lazarus, which again is a bit more of a bar, but it's like a bar and gig venue as well. There's a bar that I was going to go to in a town called Sassenheim, and they frequently put on like death metal shows with a bunch of local bands, and I've not had a chance to visit it just yet. I've seen some for one in Ada as well, or Enschede, and you'll see like I think there's like one in Alkmaar. But like the thing is with some of the smaller towns, despite the Netherlands is really really well linked for like a lot of it, the smaller towns getting back from them is a bit hairy.
As the advert says, you should have got a travel lodge.
It's easy to get around for the most part, but risking not being able to get back home on a Wednesday night when I have work the next day, it's too
Yeah,
much for a risk.
that's fair enough.
Amsterdam, the main cities and stuff, but probably a little bit harder to break into because that's where the premier places are, as opposed to,
Mm,
the little dingy pub that plays gigs to 50 people, for example.
yeah. So you're talking about gigs that played 50 people. I
Mm.
mean, what's the smallest venue you've ever seen a gig on a band that's gone on to do something big? Whether that's in Holland or in the UK.
So I think overall, like the biggest almost like meteoric rise that I've seen was Sleep Token at TechFest in 2018. Nobody actually knew that they were playing prior to the show because they were a secret act. I had no idea who they were at this point. So I went in,
I
watched
still
them,
don't.
and I was still don't. Well, I mean, they've hit the big time to say the least. At that point, they had like 5 singles out or something. They didn't even have the first album, and now I'm seeing them at a venue called Afas Live in Amsterdam, and that's 6,000 people, which is a big show by Dutch standards. But they're also like doing a loop around like the UK, and they played the O2, the actual, you know,
To London.
yeah. I saw
Okay.
Pendulum there earlier this year. The fact that Sleep Talking have gone from playing to 100, 150 at a festival at Newark Showground to playing arguably one of the most prestigious venues in the whole of the UK. It's quite something to do in the space of 6 years.
Gotta be honest. I mean, I went to see the Raven Age on the launch of their first album in the Fleece in Bristol,
Mm.
which is a 200 capacity. So they blew me away then, and they did them again a couple of times since. But I mean, a lot of that is to do with the members of the band and the relationships they have with certain supergroups.
Well, yeah, they did tour with
Iron
Alter
Maiden,
Bridge not too long ago.
yeah, they're on with Iron Maiden now on their world tour next year. But why not if you got the opportunity?
Well,
And
yeah, I
they
mean,
went.
so like hell, yeah, let's go tour with a band that's almost entirely the reason why we exist.
Yeah, pretty much. But I got to be honest. I mean, I saw them the other week in Cardiff supporting Apocalyptica. Now
Mm.
that was an unusual combination. But then Apocalyptica were playing the Metallica tracks, and that's another band that blew my brain. 3 guys on a cello and a big drummer. The noise they made was immense.
Yeah, I came across them for the first time way back in 2004 because they were supporting Rammstein on their Rise of Riser tour. Before we went in, we only found out who Apocalyptica were on the actual drive down to Manchester. And we were like, oh, playing Slayer and Metallica on cellos? Yeah. I wonder if they'll do the solos. And yeah, they did. And me and my mate were like, whoa, okay.
That was it. Like I said, I mean, my son is an Apocalyptica fan because he used to play the cello, and he's had some of their discs for many years now. But I mean, it was the first chance I thought I'll go and see him just because, not being the world's greatest Metallica fan, I have to say,
Mm.
they blew me away. Probably because there was no singing.
Ah, I mean, they've got like a couple of, well, newer, I say newer. I think the album came out like about 15 years ago at this point, but they have like guest singers. Like, I think they've had Till Lindemann, they've had Corey Taylor from Slipknot, they've had the singer of the Rasmus, I can't remember what his name is. They've done a few of those, but I guess they probably felt like their wings would be clipped live if they relied too much on guest singers.
I can understand that because at the end of the day, they're classically trained musicians
Mhm.
and very, very good at it. And you can tell by the way they thoroughly enjoy playing their instruments on stage.
Yeah, I mean, I remember seeing them at Download Festival, and partway through, one of them goes, "We cannot speak English very well, but we can surely headbang," and then just started spinning his hair around while playing it. I've got no idea how you can play a cello with that level of accuracy while you're spinning your head around them.
Yeah, yeah, no, it was pretty impressive. I got to be honest. So you mentioned Sleep Token. I have to say, I think I'm going to have to look up, but I'm not entirely sure of the genre, but I'll have a look anyway.
I don't think many people are entirely sure of the genre.
Oh, sounds a bit like one of the other, like I said, the Von Hertzen brothers that I'm interviewing this week as well.
Mm.
Nobody's sure of their genre, but I love them. I think they're fabulous.
Mhm.
Anyway,
Yeah, Sleep Talking are interesting because they do often keep you guessing with their sort of approach. They do lean a little bit heavily sometimes on the quiet bit, loud bit, quiet bit, loud bit sort of formula. But you know, there's some songs like I think Aqua Regia and Alkaline that are like really almost like funky, really ballady and stuff. And there's a couple of tracks on the latest album that you could have fooled me if you played that specific segment and told me it was Pink Floyd.
perhaps I will have to check it
They've
out
got an
then.
interesting selection of influences.
Perhaps I will have to check it out then. But this is the whole point, isn't it? I mean, this is why we go to gigs, is to find things that we wouldn't actually come across otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, support acts are like a real, truly like important, integral part of a lot of shows that I go to. And there's been very frequently where I've turned up to a show not knowing who the support act is, and they've gone on to become like one of my favorite bands. Like a really, really like an example I always tell people about how important support acts are to me is a still relatively small post-rock kind of act called Nordic Giants, and they were supporting Tesseract and the Contortionist at Manchester Academy too. And basically, these two guys get up in like almost like tribal tiki outfits. One of them sat behind a drum kit, and the other one sat behind like some percussion, keys, and you can see like a trumpet and stuff all lined up. And throughout the show, they have a projection on the backing screen playing like videos that go along with the music, and they have like a TV that's in like portrait mode directly in front of them as well. So every song has a specific music video tied to it. Some of them are unbelievably bizarre. Some of them are quite sad. Some of them are joyful, playful homages to stuff like they have one song called Together, and the whole music video for it is almost like a love letter to animation over the years, all the way from the early Mickey Mouse drawings to like newer stuff like that's like anime, Studio Ghibli, that sort of stuff. And it's truly a wondrous experience. And yeah, a friend of mine were watching it, maybe talked about it for about 2 minutes before we just kind of just shut up and just stared for 30 minutes in complete baffled silence. And it's a really special moment for me, that, and it's going to be a bit sad because I don't think I'm going to get to see them unless I specifically go back to the UK. They don't really seem to go to Europe very often.
I mean, touring in Europe has been made harder, obviously, by what's happened politically. But I think a lot of the bands are starting to work their way through it now, because I know there are a couple of bands from my area in South Wales that have just done 2 huge tours across Germany and Austria and places like that. And if you get the opportunity and you like the sort of the heavier stuff, like Florence Black, you get to see them. They're a really good band from Merthyr. And the other one is a bit more of the sort of classic pop rock stuff, is Those Damn Crows. But, I mean,
I've heard of them.
My claim to fame is Those Damn Crows did 2 sets at Download one year, and a friend of mine said to me, will you do the sound for a band for me on the back of a truck at a small sort of biker festival? I said, yeah, go on, I'll do it. And it was Those Damn Crows. So I did the sound for them on the back of a trailer on a local rugby pitch. And it was a good day. But the thing that annoys me is, like, when you're talking about people go across to see their friends in a local venue, and they'll turn up, they'll see their local friends, and then whoever else is on the bill, they'll either go before or they'll leave, they don't even turn up at all. And that irritates me, because if they didn't go to see their friends, then nobody else would be there to see them either. And that's something that it grinds my gears a bit. If I'm going to a gig, I'll go to see all the bands on the gig. Having said that, there was one rather large supergroup that recently did a tour in the UK, and I thought, my other son and his girlfriend went, and we thought, it's going to be a good day. And after 2 hours, we left because we were bored. I won't tell you which group it was, but you can probably work it out yourself. But like I said, I've never left a gig before in my life. But after 2 hours, we said, come on, I've had enough of this, I'm going.
No, I completely appreciate that sort of like feeling, because before I moved away from Manchester, there was a certain band that you would think I would absolutely love. And I paid quite a significant amount of money for their ticket at the Apollo in Manchester. I got halfway through and I was like, this is unbelievably boring. And I was like, I'm going to go. Because it was the way the band did their live show, it had like really high production value, all this other sort of stuff, but it just sounded flat. And the band had a tendency to go off on these constant experimental sound tangents. So you get maybe like 2 minutes of an actual song, and the rest of it was, I don't know, the guitarist like just bashing his guitar or something like that for about 5 minutes, and I'd be like, cool. I mean, well, technically they are jazz, prog, and stuff like that, but it was just horrendously boring. And it was like people around like, yes, a true artistic expression, and I'm like it was like looking at the equivalent of the Heinz beans can on an art podium. And I was like, nah, I'm going.
So, like I said, you mentioned Sleep Talk, and is there anybody else that's on your radar that you've picked up since being in Holland that you
Yeah,
thought would go on and make something big?
there's a few bands that I've seen so far that are like part of like the Dutch circuit, and one band that really sticks out to me that I swear to God, if Slam Dunk, specifically Slam Dunk, picks them up, people are gonna love it, and that is a band called Tusky.
So, was it called
T
Tusky?
Tusky, yeah, Tusky,
Right.
and they're like the pop punk, but like heavier pop punk. Very playful music, really fun. But like their sort of vibe is absolutely what Slam Dunk would absolutely love. It's just fun stuff. I got to review their show at a venue called The Helling in Utrecht.
Mm.
That crowd was absolutely off it. People were all over the place. I was trying to write my review out while constantly guarding my pint because people were flying all over the place. And I got that was like it was a hometown show for them, so it was
Mm.
sold out, well
Everybody,
attended. Everyone
yeah.
was there. Everyone knew what they were doing. I saw them again not so long ago at Melkweg, but at the up stage, much smaller and stuff. And it was just them. And again, it's just great, good fun. Like I genuinely hope that they finally break into like the UK because they definitely deserve it. Sorry. And another one that stood out is a band called Another Now. They're a little bit more like a synthy metalcore, so a little bit closer towards bands like Northlane, that's that sort of thing. So there's a lot of heavy synth elements, some really nice fat riffs, good grooves, mixed vocals. And I've seen them a couple of times now. I've saw them at their own show in Eindhoven, and I saw them at Yeda on Air, I think this year. I think it was. And their new album, I think it's called Hex. I think it is. It's just a slice of good metalcore. Like the Netherlands, outwardly to like other countries and stuff like that, is not necessarily really known for its metal scene. It's very much known for its sort of like rave hardcore sort of stuff where people do all this sort of dancing and everything. So like these sort of bands do seem to build up like a really solid following. And again, because of the ease of traveling around a lot in this country, it's very easy for like fans of a band to kind of like follow them around quite a significant chunk of the country as well. So they
Mm.
end up building up a really solid following. And again, I think, you know, they just need to get on a tour that plays venues like Rebellion in Manchester or Scala in London, the Fleece in Bristol, that sort of thing. They just need to like get on like a good metalcore based tour. I reckon the UK will want them back a lot.
It's interesting to know. Like I said, if you can do me a favour, if you
So not particularly exciting, but there we go. Right, so that's the first one, which I was a little bit disappointed that they didn't play that on their last show because I really like that song. Another Now, yeah, title track of the album, Hex. That'll do.
there we are. Okie dokie. Well, there we are. Thanks, brilliant. Thanks for your
Mm.
time. Have you got anything else you'd like to add, or are you quite happy with where we are at that point?
I think the main thing is I just really want to add that I think the Netherlands has a severely underrated music scene. It does frequently get left out a lot of these like sort of big dates where like they'll play I don't know 5 dates in the UK, maybe like Paris, maybe like Brussels or Antwerp or something, and then they'll skip across to Germany. They might play I don't know 1 or 2 Polish dates or something as well. But other than that, the variety of stuff here is very varied, very interesting. I've got to see 5 different shows next week with 5 different genres, so put it that way. So I'm happy with
Interesting.
that.
So you were saying that a lot of the venues tend to be sort of about 1,500, 2,000 capacity.
It varies.
Oh,
So tonight, for example, I'm going to Tivoli Friedeberg. But I'm going to murder that pronunciation in Utrecht. It's got 3 main rooms. It's got
mm-hmm.
about 9 stages, but 3 main rooms for shows. You've got Pandora, which is like all the way upstairs, which is 650. You've got Ronda, which I think is about 1,500 as well. And then you've got the Hotezaal, which is this big, huge, massive circular area. And I think that's still only about 1,500, but the design for it is for like auditorium style shows. Art in Harlem. It's got 3 rooms. It's got one stage room that's maybe 200. It's not very big at all. The other stage up from that is 500 to 600, and then the big room in there is like 1800 or something. So I've seen like the ocean there and stuff, or I go there really, really frequently. So like there's usually like a good variety of different stage sizes, but the Netherlands suffers at one particular gap, and that's the sort of like
the arena.
well, it's not so much the arena size. It's like the sub arena size. So going from like 1500 to like 6000. The main venue that 99% of those bands that are crossing that gap play is a venue called 013, which is in Tilburg. And that city is a nightmare to get back from on a weekday. It's like 2 hours train, so there's no way I can guarantee that I can get back and sleep on time and go to work. And the main room in that is a 3,000 capacity. But there's almost nothing that satisfies that in any other city. It's a huge gap. So it's a real shame for that. So I can understand why bands that are picking up speed will either play at Tilburg or they won't play at the Netherlands. So hopefully they'll cover that gap at some point.
This is the thing with the music venue trust. They're trying to sort out the smaller venues to give the bands places to start. But a lot of the venues sort of between 5 and 10,000 capacity are starting to come around. I mean, you've got the Co-op in Manchester, which is 20,000. You know, you've got... they're talking about building another arena in Cardiff instead of the Motorpoint or the whatever it is at the moment, the Utilita or Cardiff International Arena, as we all call it, which is about 5,000. But, you know, there's you've got the O2 then, which has got that sort of 15, 20,000 capacity. So, you know, they're about... this is, and what's happening is bands are reducing the number of gigs they're doing, you know. Whereas back in 1990, they were doing somewhere in the region of 22 gigs on a tour. They're only doing about 10 or 11 now.
Yeah, I can understand that there's issues with that sort of stuff because, like, when I lived in Manchester, I saw several venues close for, I don't know, like redevelopment purposes. Like, one venue that disappeared very shortly after I moved to Manchester was Sound Control. Sound Control was a wonderful, wonderful small venue that I think it had 3 stages. Mainly only used like 2 of them for gigs. It had like a downstairs area that was maybe 150 at the most. It was really small, and it had an upstairs area. And I saw bands like Dance Gavin Dance there, Animals as Leaders. I saw Pliny. I saw Tesseract. I saw a lot of really, really, really good shows there that may not have had chance otherwise because there wasn't really anything that would kind of plug that gap. Manchester has some like DIY places like Atma and the Pier Hat, which are fantastic little venues. Gulliver's as well. I could talk all day about the amount of venues that I used to go to in Manchester because Manchester is a fantastic city for the variance of venues you have there, ranging from someone's basement in a pub, ranging all the way to, like you said, the Co-op arena. It caters for so many different band sizes, and it fosters a fantastic music scene as well.
Well, it
And I do envy it.
It has over the years, hasn't it? You know, I mean, there's Liverpool and Manchester, the bands that came out of those 2 cities in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, you know, and you can understand why. But a lot of the, like I said, a lot of the venues are closed post-pandemic. Because it's just uneconomical to put on small gigs in smaller venues.
Yeah, I think the thing that I've noticed here with the Netherlands is that the amount of government funding for arts-based events seems to be much more thorough and comprehensive. And you see this shine through in the quality of the venues that are here. So, like I've mentioned, the Tivoli in Utrecht, Melkweg, Paradiso in Amsterdam, Patronaat in Haarlem, like FNR and Dynamo in Eindhoven, 013 in Tilburg. There is an outstanding baseline of quality for these sort of music venues. And the only time I've ever heard bands not sound good, it's been down to whoever's doing the sound engineering, unfortunately. Because acoustically, the venues sound fantastic. They've got an unbelievably good PA system in all of them. The layout of the bar it makes sense. A lot of them have lockers that maybe cost you like €2 to stash your bags in. They're all very easy to get to. They've all got like accessibility thought in, so they've got lifts for people with like wheelchairs or other access needs and stuff. And like one thing I've noticed as well, like there's even like a lot of venues will have like separate levels, one for the sound engineer and one for the lighting engineer. So they'll have like the appropriate spot to get the best amount of sound, and then the appropriate spot to get the best view of the stage for what you're doing with the lights. There's so many like little parts of thoughtfulness with the way the venues are constructed here that I think the UK could obviously use as a good example, but they need the funding and backing to be able to implement those ideas.
Funding is the biggest issue, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It's if anything goes, the first thing to go is the arts. It's like in Wales, they've pulled the funding on the Welsh National Opera, and you're thinking, well, this is something that's been around for an awful long time. And if you're going to do that, you're going to lose all your classical musicians, you're going to lose your classical singers. And that's without people that are not classically trained. You'll end up losing all the people that can play an instrument that want to get on stage and actually play it. You'll end up with all electronic music or other people's sampled music.
Yeah, and like if there's one band I'd like to basically sort of just mention and shout out to because they back the Music Venue Trust and all the grassroots thing at Senator Shikari. I have never seen any other band make quite the level of noise that they do for this sort of stuff, to the point where I think their last like 2 or 3 tours, every £1 or £2, I think, from every single ticket straight back in the Music Venue Trust, and they consistently bring out smaller bands, like as in like upcoming bands for their support acts. They're never like, this is a choice of the label or whatever like that. Like at Shikari, like, nah, we know who these are and we want to have them. Had it not been for them, I would never have come across a band called Blackout Problems, who are still a relatively small band from Germany. I think they're from Munich. They've got like a similar synthy sort of rock vibe, but I never would have known about them otherwise.
Well, I will say that fair play to Coldplay. Not everybody's cup of tea again, but they turn around and 10% of their total ticket sales for their tour next year is going straight to the Music Venue Trust.
That's awesome. I didn't know that they did that either. That's really awesome.
That's a significant amount of money.
If I get it for a band like Coldplay.
And the other thing I found out the other day was that actually Ticketmaster in October, if people donate to the Music Venue Trust when they buy a ticket in October, Ticketmaster will match that funding on a pound for pound basis. So I think they should put more in, but that's a different issue altogether.
Yeah, I think I would like to hope that it's not just symbolic. I have various misgivings about how Ticketmaster operates.
Well, yeah, you and me both.
I could talk about a whole monologue entirely on the whole sort of monopoly issues regarding music venues as well, but that's by the by.
Yeah, that's not for us. We're never going to change it. Well, thanks for your time, Jase. Have a good week at all your gigs. And I'm gonna hit 100 next week. Yeah. Justin said he was headed towards that.
Oh, I've beaten by a mile.
He said he's 78, I think he said.
I'll hit 100 with Interpol. Perfect band for it.
There you go. So we'll do this again at some point. We'll have a look and see what's going on. Take care, Justin.
All right, thanks very much.
Have a good week. Bye then.
Yeah, you as well. See you later. Bye.